What is going on, everybody? My name is Payne and welcome to another anime review video. And in this video, I'll be reviewing the first movie of this channel. This is a movie that I remember watching at an early age, and frankly, that's all I remember is watching it. And then I came across it pretty recently, and then I thought to myself, holy shit, why do I not remember anything from this movie? This is amazing. So I thought this would be the perfect thing to talk about, especially considering, again, this is the first movie of this review, and it's not just any ordinary movie. This movie is also considered to be one of, if not the greatest animated movie of all time, and that is My Neighbor Totoro. My Neighbor Totoro, also known as Tonari no Totoro, was directed by Hayao Miyazaki and was made by Studio Ghibli, who is very well known for their many award-winning anime films. The hour and 26-minute long movie first premiered in Japan on April 16, 1988, to which it received multiple awards shortly after its release. In 1989, a company by the name of Streamline Pictures made the first ever dub, originally for trans-Pacific flights on Japan Airlines, before it was released in theaters in 1993 and was released for VHS and Laserdisc for Fox Video in 1994 and DVD in 2002. After the rights to the dub were expired in 2004, Disney bought the rights and re-released their own dub with a whole new dub cast, which featured Elle and Dakota Fanning, as well as Frank Welker. This was also the film that jump-started Hayao Miyazaki's career as a director, as he would direct many more Studio Ghibli movies in the late future, and would be considered as one of the greatest animated directors of all time. As for the movie, years after its release, it has been critically acclaimed by both fans and critics, and it has had a worldwide cult following, specifically in Japan. The film and its title character Totoro have become basically cultural icons. Totoro has made multiple cameo appearances in many different Studio Ghibli movies, video games, and of course, hundreds of different anime shows, and Studio Ghibli has gone so far as to even make Totoro their mascot, as they would make future movies. This movie has also had a huge impact to the point where the title character was used as a mascot for a foundation known as the Totoro Hometown Fund campaign to preserve areas of a Satoyama, which is basically like a Japanese mountain village, which is also the setting of the movie. The fund, which was started in 1990 after the film's release, had an auction in August of 2008 at Pixar Animation Studios. At that auction, they sold over 200 original paintings, illustrations, and sculptures inspired by the movie, giving a movie a local environmental impact as well, basically promoting the environment, which is very impactful, something that we haven't really seen that much from different shows and different movies. So before I go into the cultural impact of this show, let's just get into the main story of basically why does everyone love this show and why does this still have an impact even 30 years later. So the story begins when a professor by the name of Tatsuo Kusakabe and his two daughters, Satsuki and Mei, move into an old house to be closer to the hospital where the girl's mother, Yasuko, is recovering from a long-term illness. A couple of days go by, and one day Mei chases what looks like a rabbit through a briar patch and into the hollow of a large tree that's right next to the new house. It was there where she meets and befriends a larger version of that same rabbit creature, which identifies itself as a series of roars that she interprets as Totoro. After a few minutes of just playing around with him, he sleeps on Totoro to where eventually Satsuki finds her sleeping in a briar clearing. After Mei unsuccessfully tries to show Tatsuo, his father, and Satsuki, her sister, where Totoro is, Tatsuo responds by saying that he is the keeper of the forest and only shows up when he wants to. Fast forward to a few days later on a rainy night, while the girls are waiting for Tatsuo's bus to come by after he gets off of work, Satsuki sees Totoro standing beside him with Mei sleeping on her back and with her holding an umbrella. This instance, which later led to the movie poster and to easily one of the most iconic images in the history of animation, which is, again, it's Satsuki standing right there with an umbrella and Mei sleeping on her back. And then there's Totoro standing alongside her, towering over her with a leaf on his head. After realizing that he only had the leaf on his head, Satsuki gives him the umbrella, to where he returns by giving him a series of nuts and seeds that they would later plant, but more on that very shortly. About a couple of minutes go by and both see what looked like a bus come by, but instead of it being a normal bus, it looks like something straight out of Alice in Wonderland, it's this giant cat bus that is just jumping everywhere. Totoro gets in it, and it just flies away. And then about shortly after the cat bus left, their father's bus, their dad, Tatsuo's bus comes in, they get dropped off, and everything is fine. So the girls plant the seeds, and a few days later they awaken at midnight to find Totoro and a couple of his friends engaged in a ceremonial dance around where they planted the nuts and seeds. The girls join in, whereupon the seeds sprout, and then they grow and combine into this big-ass tree. Shortly afterwards, Totoro takes his friends and the girls for a ride on a magical flying top. Wait, what? Totoro takes his colleagues and the girls for a ride on a magical flying top. Yep, I said that. Oh boy, that was been a while. In the next morning, the tree is gone, but the seeds have indeed sprouted. And one thing that the movie doesn't answer, and I feel like they've avoided answering this intentionally, was that it doesn't really say if it was a dream or not. So a couple of days later, Satsuki finds out that the long-awaited trip by their mother had to be postponed due to a setback in her treatment. Satsuki tells Mei, they get into an argument. Mei runs away to the hospital to see her, but the problem is that she didn't tell anyone. This later turns into this whole neighborhood-wide manhunt trying to find Mei. Satsuki gets so stressed out to the fact that she pleads for help from Totoro to where he indeed helps her. He helps her by summoning the cat bus again. She gets in the cat bus goes to find Mei, and she was a long ways away from the neighborhood. And then they pick Mei up, and they go to the hospital, they find out that she just has a cold, and it's gonna be fine, and then the movie ends with them going back home, as well as Yasuko, their mother, seeing the new house for the first time. And so that was My Neighbor Totoro, and I gotta be honest here, when I watched it at the time, I told myself this is one of the best things I have ever seen. And I believe that these three things are the reason why I think this is one of the best movies or shows in general that I think I'll ever watch. The first is the animation, second is the music, and the third and most important one is the goal that the movie tried to portray, which is to show off children's innocence. And they did all three perfectly. So the first thing I want to talk about is the animation, and is because there is a story surrounding it regarding the director Miyazaki and the art director by the name of Kazuo Oga. Oga was drawn to the film when Miyazaki showed him an original image of Totoro standing in a Satayama in the setting of the movie. Miyazaki then challenged Oga to raise his standards to make something out of this image of Totoro with a Satayama, and it is said that his experience with My Neighbor Totoro, the results that he made for this movie, jump-started his career as he would be the art director for many, many more Studio Ghibli films. And especially in this movie, rich with body language and facial expressions, the screenplay succeeds in the art of showing and not just telling, breathing nuance and realism into the cast's actions and interactions. These subtleties add striking believability to the characters as adults and children alike look and behave according to their ages, which is unfortunately something that we have not seen much outside of Studio Ghibli films. And I believe this is like, I don't want to say a once-in-a-generation thing, but it is something that, we really don't see that much. The physical environments, too, are vividly detailed, setting the stage for the integration of the cast and fantasy, whether, it'll be the cluttered rooms of the house they recently moved into, or the setting and the green grass and the blue sky of the Satayama that they moved into as well. And the next thing I want to talk about is the music, and this is regarding the composer for the movie, and this is regarding Joe Hisaishi, who is the composer for the music in this movie. His compositions blend really well with the mood of the senses, with, in some cases, the tempo is upbeat in situations of excitement, curiosity, and discovery, while is smooth when the tension is low. The timing is delicate, but more than anything, the tracks themselves are what stand out most. Charming and varied, these melodic tunes that Joe composed made extraordinary scenes even more memorable. The careful management not only soothes the body and the mind, but it also permits the soundtrack to lace key scenes with vivid and meaningful tonality. Interesting to note, though, is that for most of the movie there is no background music. Instead, the focus was placed on environmental sounds, allowing the countryside setting to weave its own atmosphere instead of it being artificially put in there by music. In concordance with the naturalistic tone of the story, it adds a more organic touch to the presentation, one focused on painting nature in its purest form. Now let's go to the third and final reason I like this is because it shows off children's innocence, the goal of the story. As in my opinion, this movie is more about inspiring one's imagination than creating a fantasy backdrop, as it shows an honest message about the importance of childhood and its connection with nature. There's no complexity, but the presentation is delivered with finesse and flair. Much of it being due to the laid-back pace and the amiable guidance of the protagonist, slowly hinting at the mysteries that may be hidden throughout the movie. Some of them solved, some of them is just going to stay a mystery. The film's amazing portrayal of the girl's imagination conveys a true sense of jollity present in most children in real life. And beyond its realism, it delivers a dazzlingly magical experience by way of its supernatural encounters with the manifestations of nature. But this occurs ever so gently, as one could consider it like a dreamlike tale that both begins and ends in blissful serenity. In my opinion, My Neighbor Totoro is a true classic, and no matter how long it'll stand the test of time, it will remain in the hearts of many as a heartwarming experience, as one of the purest and most beautiful memories, which is a frolicsome childhood never to be forgotten. A tale intended for kids, yet a journey fit for all ages. I'm going to give My Neighbor Totoro a perfect 10 out of 10. This is a movie that I believe that everyone in the history of everything should watch. This is a feel-good movie. Thank you guys for watching my Neighbor Totoro review. If you liked the video, hit the like button, and if you want to see more anime review videos, you can hit the subscribe button on the screen. Also, if you want to see more review videos, there's a couple more that are linked. Also, you can go into my channel, as there's also a considerable number of review videos that you can watch as well. And with that, once again, my name is Payne, and I'll see you in the next anime review video.